The thing you're about to see is kind of special, but also something I tried to bury. The lost episode of Toy Kings. And the reason it never went anywhere was because of this. Camera work, terrible. Lighting, absolutely garbage. Audio, atrocious. Not even usable in most cases. But the good thing about it is, the content I thought was really good. And if you don't know what Toy Kings was, because it fortunately is a dead thing, this is Toy Kings. Toy Kings was a web show and also a talk show as well that I did with my friend Phil and my cousin Jake. The quick backstory of it is I had an idea for a documentary about collecting, but the documentary quickly changed into a web series. As I was filming the show, I knew that there was something here. I was onto something, but I couldn't quite place it. And in this episode that you're about to see has the essence of what it was supposed to be about. It wasn't supposed to be about the collection. It was supposed to be about the person and why they collect it. Why did they have this type of stuff? And so what you're about to see is my friend Jason. He has an extensive book collection. We really get to understand him as a person and get inside his head. And that is why I want to share this with you, because it's a little bit of the brainstorming, a little behind the scenes as to what I was trying to achieve with the show and what I'm trying to create with my actual documentary, what I'm going back to, the roots of the original idea that I had. If you can get past the audio issues, I believe that the content is great. Now, another thing I'd like to mention is that I'm a strong believer in using what you have. If you have a camera and you have a microphone or whatever you got, use it. Make something, right? But case in point of where that only goes so far is this episode. I had crappiest equipment. So having great equipment is crucial. 100%, you need good equipment. Those people that say it doesn't matter what you have, yes and no. It only goes so far. You can only achieve so much with what you have. But I am still a strong believer using what you have, because I didn't let me not having what I needed to create something. I would not have something to even show you guys right now. Which is also a great example as to why I'm taking my time on getting this documentary going. I'm trying to get funding to get a couple of the things that I need. This was part of my past, and that's why this is framed. I have it hanging here in my studio. Toy Kings was really fun to do. I enjoyed it. I learned so much while creating this show. And I want to do it justice and make this documentary, The Collector's Mind, and do it proper. I've got great plans, great ideas to make that happen. I'm very excited to get started on that project. But in the meantime, I want you guys to enjoy this little blast from the past, and also enjoy this what not to do while shooting a documentary. Enjoy. My name is Chris Erickson, owner of Showroom Collectibles. If you could see the items that came through my door, or hear the stories that people tell me, they would blow your mind. Which got me thinking, what else is out there? So I grabbed my bag, grabbed my camera, and I grabbed a fill, then hit the road. We want to see your collection. Big or small, doesn't matter. We want to hear the funniest and the craziest stories you have. So come with us on our journey to meet the best collectors. You can call us the Toy Kings. Welcome into another exciting episode of Toy Kings, guys. We got a special collector here. We got Jason.
Don't know about special, but thank you.
You're quite well.
Thank you very much.
I'm honored to be here. I'm in your amazing library. This is absolutely incredible.
Thank you. A lot of work went into this. So
I was going to say, what do you collect? But that's kind of a dumb question.
I collect mostly baseball cards. You know, yeah, baseball a little bit of books on the side. Yeah, but
no, say maybe some stamps.
Stamps mostly, yes. And pennies. I collect pennies. Yes. Yes.
Like the Buffalo nickels and things?
No, just regular pennies I find on the ground. That's all I collect.
Awesome.
No, it's books.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got some cool stuff in here. And we'll dive into in detail here in a minute.
Roger that.
But why don't you tell me a little about yourself? Like, kind of where you started doing this?
Well, I mean, I grew up in Eastern Oregon. I grew up on a dairy farm. My mom was an ex-teacher and was really pushed me to reading when I was a kid. It was really important. And so I think I just naturally sort of progressed into that. I read all the time, read anything I get my hands on. And I think that's the natural progression into the book collecting. Like, as you get older, you make sure you get your paperback copy of your favorite book. And then I think somewhere along the way I strayed and I decided, well, I didn't need the paperback copy of my favorite book. Maybe I'll get the hardcover of it. And then that progression goes, well, then maybe I should get a signed hardcover. Well, maybe I should get the signed limited hardcover, right, or the leather one. I think, and that's where it happened. It progressed out of that. Whereas I got older, you have more disposable income. It starts to be like, maybe, gosh, I really do love that book. I love that author. I'll get a signed copy. Right. And that's the entry drug.
I know you still have a little bit of like the I guess you could say the nerdy stuff, like Star Wars and superhero-y stuff. Is there, like, your books is kind of like you mainly focus on them, or is that stuff secondary?
No, my books are definitely the main focus of my collecting, and I think I do still have the nerdy stuff. I have a large part of my library, maybe close to a third of it is hardcover comics. But even that, I did the same thing where when I used to collect, I had comic books in long boxes or short boxes, and then it was, well, maybe I'll get the trade paperbacks. Okay. And now it's like, no, I need the $75 hardcover of that same stuff. Sure. So that's kind of progressed to that. So there's still, I have a large collection of comics, but even that's sort of, well, I need the signed limited version of that one and things like that. So I still love nerdy stuff. I love comics, 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, Marvel and DC. I love that stuff.
Now, I know we've talked a little bit about it, but you got like autograph stuff too. Like you got a lot of your books and things autographed.
Yes. I love meeting the people that build something that I love. I think there's something joyful about that, about getting to meet the guy that wrote that character that you thought was just so neat when you were 12. I love that interaction with that guy and being able to say, I read your character when I was a kid and he was so neat. I just think that's fantastic. And I love being able to go and meet an author whose work either influenced my writing or influenced my life or, reinforced some things that I thought maybe. I love meeting those guys to be able to just tell them, like, hey, what you wrote worked. That was worth it.
And the other thing about books that get me is once I go somewhere with one of these, I bring it back with me. It's forever, right?
So you take these?
I do. Now,
you take these with you?
And I will get these signed by people. Carl Marlantis, he's a Vietnam veteran, heck of a guy. Went to his book signing, and he signed this book for me. From an old Marine to a veteran of the 10th Mountain, with respect and thanks.
Awesome.
Now, you can't get that on a Kindle.
No.
And I can't get that with a Star Wars action figure. This is the thing this is my interaction with this guy. Right. And I own this forever. And I have that page that says I own it forever.
And I just think that's cool. It's a neat connection where then I can, like, if I go and get a book signed by somebody, then I bring that back. And I have a visceral reminder of that interaction with that author or person that I liked, or sports hero or whoever it is. I bring that back to my house, and then that little moment, I get to keep that forever. So, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the yes, there's a bunch of books on the shelf. These are just paper and cardboard. Yeah. But then, it gets to come alive a little bit when you get to meet the person. And unfortunately, a lot of my favorite writers have passed, but I've been able to meet some of their kids and still be able to talk like secondhand of, what do you think your dad thought about this? Or, so it's a fun thing. It's a fun way of doing it.
I think a lot of people, like a lot of collectors that we've seen, which is nothing wrong with it. They like collect stuff, put it on display, and that's it. But I love meeting people that actually there's a reason why it's on your shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, you're collecting it, but it's more than that. It's not just here's a cool book, here's a really rare book. This is really worth blah blah amount of money, It's not. It could be absolutely worthless and value-wise, but it's completely priceless. And that really struck me. That's awesome.
There's definitely some things on the shelves in here that aren't worth anything. Yeah. You're like, why is it taking up real estate? Because it's important.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, and I'm glad you bring that up, my book collection is worth a certain dollar amount. Right. However, it's also borderline worthless because every book that I own, grab a Tom Clancy signed first edition here. Say this is worth $200. Right. We're just throwing that out there. I put a book plate in every book I own. Okay. Which knocks the value down by a quarter, maybe a half. Okay. Intrinsically. But every single book in this library has my book plate in it because it belongs to my library. Right. This is not about value. I've paid more for a book than it's worth because I needed it in here.
And you had mentioned, you told me that you served in the military.
I did. I did serve in the military.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How long were you in the military?
I was in the military for about 2 years and change. I was in the infantry. I did a tour of duty in Somalia. And I think book collecting, in a way, is a grounding thing. And for me, this creates an environment where I'm comfortable. So you build sort of this room that sort of has these things that sort of emanate calming things. Yeah. So it's a nice way of it's a way of exerting my will on things and creating an order. So, you know, my brain might be scattered and disorganized and going 20 million different ways, but in here, you know, everything has a place. Yeah. Everything has an order. And I'm building within this an idea of what I'd like my world to be like. Very ordered. Things go where they go. You know, there's places where I know things are supposed to go. There's a hole right there, and there's a book that goes there. And when I get that book, it'll go there. And I think that all tied in, you know. And just, I think it also, you know, just the way of looking at the world. But, you know.
Yeah. Switching a little bit back to the toy world.
Yeah.
You said you collected, but you sold a lot of your stuff.
I collected hardcore. I did.
What were the main things that you collected?
I was a hardcore G.I. Joe collector for a long time.
Vintage 80s era?
3 3/4, yeah. 3 3/4 80s G.I. Joes. I had an extreme collection of that stuff to the point where I was just buying parts. I would buy part lots. I had a lot. And then I had a huge Star Wars collection. I had a massive Lego collection. That was actually out of control.
All 80s toys.
I'm sure you had Star Wars. Everyone had Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, I had tons of Star Wars. I had tons of Star Wars. Like, yeah,
nice.
A lot.
So you said 80s toys.
Yeah.
Anything else? Like He-Man or things like that?
A little bit of He-Man, a little bit of Robotech. I mean, basically, the way I was collecting was if it was plastic from the 80s and was an action figure and I owned it, I was probably buying most of it. So yeah, I did collect real hardcore to toys for a while.
Were you like a completist? You have to get everything.
Yeah. It was.
I mean, a lot of people.
It was disturbing. So yeah, that was a little sick.
Yeah.
It was a little.
So you sold all of it, or pretty much all of it? You sold.
Oh, I sold probably 99% of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The only thing I kept was Dune.
Okay.
I kept all the Dune action figures because it's Dune. It's books.
And stuff you did hang on to, was it like the stuff you just really attached to?
Strangely enough, no. I actually, you know, what it boiled down to with what I kept and what I sold was what I could get for it. Okay. I sold at the upper crest of the Star Wars market, and I was going to keep a lot of stuff, and I realized that I was going to get a much better price if I just walked away with all of it. So I did. G.I. Joe is the same way. Just like, you know what? Yeah, you just got to let it all go. And so that's kind of what I did.
Is that Stormtrooper helmet you got sitting up on that shelf?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So the Stormtrooper helmet. My main passion in life, other than books, is traveling. I love traveling. And I actually got to go to England and meet Andrew Ainsworth, who worked on Star Wars in '76 and made the Stormtrooper helmets. Not the suits, just the helmets. And so I got to meet him, go to his workshop, and buy a Stormtrooper helmet from him. So, yeah, I'm real. It's my baby. So I'm real happy with that.
And he was. I know you told me the story a while back.
Yeah.
This was a little bit special that he actually.
Oh yeah,
it's
a great story. I was in Cardiff, Wales, and it was the day before Christmas Eve. So I'm sure there's an international holiday for the day before Christmas Eve, but we'll just call it the day before Christmas Eve. Okay. I was having breakfast, and I had just decided, I said, you know what, gall darn it, I'm here, I'm going back to London tomorrow, I want a Stormtrooper helmet. And so I called him from breakfast and talked to his wife or partner, I'm not sure, and she was just the nicest person and said, okay, well, no problem, Andrew will make you one tonight. And I just got off the phone thinking, Andrew is going to make me one tonight. The guy who made the Stormtrooper helmets in 1976 is going to go ahead and make me one tonight. And so we showed up at his place on Christmas Eve morning. And there was my Stormtrooper helmet waiting for me. It was still warm. The plastic bag that was around it was like sticking to it because it was still warm. So yeah, it was great. I got to meet him, hang out there with him for about an hour and a half-ish. Just the nicest guy in the world. Completely unpretentious. Just, you know, down to earth. I had a great time. Yeah, just wonderful. Yeah.
So of the things you have left, is that like your favorite thing? Or do
you mean as far as like geek stuff goes?
Yeah, like that geek stuff related.
Oh gosh, no. I mean, I love that because of the story behind it and getting to meet him. I mean, as far as the geek stuff goes, I would say my Dune props are my favorite thing. I have a bunch of Dune props from the TV miniseries and stuff.
So what do your friends and family think of all this sort of thing?
That's a great question. No, my family, I'm not close to my family because I just am not. Really? But I don't think they think much of anything other than I'm wasting my money, perhaps. My wife has just accepted that this is a sickness, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I think her thing was always it going outside of this room when these shelves were full, when it would start to migrate, and it's getting there. It keeps pushing. The only collecting that's recognized by the American Psychological Association as a mental disorder is book collecting, bibliomania. So I don't have that. I'm a bibliophile, not a
Or do you,
bibliomane.
because you're denying it.
Yeah, right. No, I actually don't. I looked it up.
Which I tell you how deep I am here.
I checked, make sure I wasn't. Yeah, I actually wrote an article about it when I wrote for the paper at Portland State University. So yeah, but
You're
it's
good.
I'm good. I'm okay. Yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking, you
By
do
all
not,
means.
you do not
By
have
all
to
means.
answer this question.
I
if
will
you do not want
probably
to.
answer it.
What's the most you've ever spent on a book?
Okay. I will tell you.
You don't have to answer. If you don't answer, I'll just say, Chris, shut up.
I'll answer it, but I'll answer it under the condition that I'll just answer it. Over $2,000.
Oh, that's not bad. I've known people that spent like $5,000 on an action figure.
It's not bad, but it's a lot of money for a book.
Yeah.
I've spent over $2,000. The other problem that you run into with my collection is it's not. You're looking at the one guy. What's the most money you've ever spent on a book? $2,000. What's the average you spend on a book? Is a much better question.
Okay, so what's your average?
$300 to $350 per book.
Most expensive book is this one. This is the final Kelmscott Press book by William Morris. This is from 1898. This is the most expensive book that I own. William Morris was a graphic designer in England, and he had a press called the Kelmscott, which published the most beautiful editions of things for, I mean, he did, his Canterbury Tales that he did is probably the best Canterbury Tales ever. I'm trying to open that just a little bit. And it's all letterpressed, so the letters are actually pushed into the paper, multiple colors. And this is the very, very last one done at the Kelmscott Press before it was closed and all of their type was thrown in the river. So this is pretty special. And I bought this in London, actually, on Christmas Eve. Very proud of that book.
I think one of the reasons I sold my toy collection was I realized I was selling a lot of my Primo toy stuff to get books. And you know what I realized? What's really important to me? You know, what's this actually? What is this?
There's a permanence to these things, where the first thing I do when I go to buy a book or look at a book is smell it. It's the very first thing I'll do, because they have there's this visceral thing that comes when you smell that book, and just the stuff that comes off of it, the dust, the dirt, the paper, and it's a real thing. It's a tangible thing. And there's something else about it. You know, I think through the years, I used to collect toys. It was like the first Toy Kings with no toys. But no one has ever done a campaign of burning toys to snuff out knowledge.
Right.
And, you know, books, you ban books, you burn books, you get rid of these things, because this is where knowledge comes down all the way through the years.
You read everything in your library?
No, not even close. Not even close.
So then what makes you want a book that you haven't read yet, or like want to read and make it like such a
Get around to it eventually.
yeah.
You know, honestly, yeah, that's part of it. That I figure I'll get around to it eventually. The other part of it is it could be somebody I admire, and I figure I'll read it eventually. Or you just need it on the shelf because it goes between A and C. My favorite book, though, is easy. It's this one. This is the first Greek reader from 1887. This was owned by H.P. Lovecraft. And you can see right here, H.P. Lovecraft's handwriting, address, and the bottom there is him trying to write the Greek in Greek. And he actually does it wrong, which is kind of funny. And I bought this from a guy out of New York who specializes in this sort of thing. So this is my favorite.
I'm cutting in right now because if you guys are a little bit squeamish, you may want to skip past this. I'll leave a little number here for you to skip to. What you're about to see is human remains. Jason has some human remains on his shelf. So there's a little viewer discretion advised for you right there. So enjoy. It keeps catching my eye. There's a skull back there.
You mean that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a human skull. People think that you can't own those. You can own those. If anybody tells you you can't own those is wrong. Yeah, that's a human skull.
That's another question.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Why not? I think it maybe just boils down to how you feel about human remains. You're dead.
I personally wouldn't have one.
I have that and a hand. The hand is also real.
This is a real articulated human hand.
Okay.
And that is a real human skull.
So where are you now? Books, of course. Where are you getting this stuff?
Okay, this is actually really interesting. There's a massive misconception from people that you're not allowed to own human remains.
Okay.
That's just not the truth. And if we're going to talk about this, I may as well hold it.
Yeah, do that.
So people freak out when you can't, but you're allowed to own it in, I think, other than 3 states in the U.S.
Okay.
It's not a problem. So this I get from a store called Paxton Gate in Portland. They sell oddities, mostly bones, taxidermy and stuff. And I got her about a year ago, and she was a dental study, and you can actually see she had a whole bunch of dental work done.
Okay.
And glued back in. You can
Yeah,
actually
they
see
put them
some
back
of the
into
glue.
place, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, she was a dental study. But yeah, I'm actually very proud of her. I think every library has to have a skull.
Well, that makes
Foregone
sense. Now,
conclusion,
when you're saying like that it's a misconception that people can't own it, my question is, can you own it because it used to be medical, or is it just because you can just have
Just
it?
because you can have it.
That's awesome. I like
There's
that.
no law, and it's a massive misconception because eBay now has said you can't sell human bones because it's illegal. It's not. It's not. There are obviously laws against stealing people's bones out of graves. I think that's called grave robbing. I'm pretty sure there's a law against that. And obviously, Native American or other indigenous people's bones, you're not allowed to own those at all, flat period out.
Okay.
But what happened was the way this works out is in the 1980s, China and India were exporting mass amounts of bones for medical study and stuff. Okay. What happened was in the 80s, somebody in India got popped for selling massive amounts of infant skeletons.
Okay.
And there was a huge question of what the heck's going on here. So India banned all exports. Okay. So you saw prices kind of do this. China then was the only exporter to the US and Europe of skeletons and skulls for study. China closed that off in the late 80s, early 90s, I think. I could be wrong about that. I won't pretend to know. And after that, there is no incoming supply of skulls or skeletons for study. So what's out there now is all old supply. And the prices now are astronomical for this stuff.
To me, it's just not a problem. I think it's weird too because I think there's obviously as people we don't like seeing our own remains. It freaks us out. But there's ossuaries in Europe and stuff like that, and bones and skulls and things have been used in art, and it's just much more in your face over there, I think. And over here, it's very people freak out. People really genuinely freak out. Like, how could you have a skull in your library? That's just free. It's in your house. It's freaky. And I'm like, it's not freaky at all. It's just a human skull. It's just a human skull. Yeah, it's only a human skull. It doesn't freak me out at all. They're kind of scattered all around because this is a rib.
Oh, I know you had a
Yeah,
rib.
there's a rib just floating around. So I've got some just random parts. You want to hold it?
Oh, I'm good. Thank
You're
you.
good. So yeah, of course. Yeah. So hey. No, that's something that's never bothered me. I was always of the opinion that every good library needed a skull. I have friends who were like, yeah, I'm not going in that room. No, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
I would never own it. I mean, I don't judge people for owning that.
No.
I think it's a little weird personally, but it doesn't matter what I think.
It's one of those things where it interests me. It interests me a lot to figure out kind of like, who was that person? What did they think and all that.
Right,
So,
yeah. Sure.
and it's a huge library. You have to have a skull. Yeah. Everybody's freaked out by her. I don't understand why. Everybody is. Actually, when I bought her, there was somebody at the counter who was freaking out that I was buying her. But is it better for me to have it than to get thrown into a dump? Because that's what happens to a lot of these.
Really?
Oh yeah. Because what will happen is, let's say when I croak out, and this comes through, and someone's just going to sell all my stuff, they'll take this to Goodwill.
Really?
Yes, happens more than you'd like to believe. Not so much anymore because people now, because of like TV shows, oddities and things like that, realize the value. But yeah, they would take the skull to Goodwill. Because what else do I do with it? You can't, people mistakenly think you can't sell it or I can't own it. It's illegal, which it isn't. Let me just reiterate that to everybody. It is not. They would take it to Goodwill or they would throw it away. I remember reading a lot of stories about trash men going through the trash and here's a human skull.
So why don't you have her behind a glass case?
That's a good question, because I like to touch it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think if I put it behind a glass case like the hand, I wouldn't be able to touch it.
I travel. It's my main passion in life is traveling different places. My only problem with traveling was anytime you come back, everybody wants a souvenir, right? You gotta have a souvenir. So
you gotta bring something for it.
You gotta get the keychain, you gotta get something else
The
like that.
T-shirt, something.
Right. I didn't want that. I want something tangible. I want to remember it. So I bring back
Something of that place,
of
not
that
just
thing.
from
Right,
that
not
place.
from it. I bring
Of it.
something back. So all of this is my international travels.
Okay.
So these are all things from, this is Japan, England, and Ireland. And if you're a whiskey fan, this is my favorite. This is from the Jameson Distillery. This is from the head cooper's station.
One of the barrels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at the Jameson Distillery. And
I'm
those
a
are
huge
shavings.
fan of Jameson, so
Yeah.
you're already
So
speaking
there
my
you go.
language.
Yep. So we were there.
And I like that you have it labeled, so it was easy for me now to see
Yeah,
what
you can
have
just
in
look
here.
at it.
But like
you
you got water. It's not just like you just, because at first I was like, oh, he collects some dirt and some rocks, and then that's what I thought. Now that you're explaining, I'm seeing it. I'm like, oh no, there's water from this
Yep.
place. There's part of the barrel from that place.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. I like it that you're actually bringing the place with it. So that's your international. So I'm
Yes.
gonna guess this.
This is my national.
Is
Yeah.
your okay?
Yep. This is U.S. stuff.
Now, out of this, like, I know you picked out the Jameson. If you were to grab one off this right now and be like, this is the thing, which one is it out here?
I would probably pick this one.
Okay.
This is tar from the La Brea tar pits.
Oh, that's epic right there.
There's one little spot that's actually bubbling out of the middle of the park now, and so I managed to get a little tar out of that spot.
And then that's just totally legit. You're allowed to get that?
Totally, I don't care.
Yeah, I got
totally
you.
do not care. The only places you're not allowed to do this sort of thing that I do here is national parks.
Right.
Don't take anything out.
Don't bring anything in.
Right. National monuments, things like that. Other than that, nobody really cares.
What is this all about?
This is a very large Bible.
Okay.
Okay. So this would have been on the rostrum. Huge book. That's one page. So imagine
This
that.
is one of those giant books that,
Got it.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, that you need 5 people to turn
One of
the page
these
for.
guys, but not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is vellum. More than likely, from what I can figure out, 15th, 1400s. It's definitely German.
Yeah.
Obviously hand done. And it is part of one of the Psalms, which I have written down which one it is, but I didn't pull that out for this shot because that would have been great. But and then it's I framed this double glass so you can see both sides.
Right, and it's I like how they even stitched it back up to preserve it.
Well, back in the day, these were so expensive. So once obviously, it wasn't printing. You had to have some guy sit and write it all
They
out.
would sit and write the whole
Yeah.
thing, and so you paid him money, and then you
Yes.
made sure that you kept that.
Exactly. And so this would have been precious to whatever church it was in, especially having all these capitals colored.
Right.
This really meant a lot to whatever church it was in. So over the years, as it gets damaged, they're going to stitch it back up.
Right.
They're going to repair it. There's a stitch here, stitches here, and all that.
What's the thing you can't reach right now that you just need to get?
Easy. I need a first edition of this. Anybody got one? Want to sell it to me? Go ahead.
Okay.
This is a 5th edition of Dune. I want a first edition of Dune. They're out there. They're gettable. They're also about $5,000.
Okay.
What'll happen eventually?
Now, if you got that, is that not that you would stop, but you would pretty much feel completed?
No, I wouldn't. It would be the pinnacle of the science fiction fantasy collection. That would top that. But there's still stuff I need in here. But having said that, it's not an open-ended collection.
Okay.
It's not like I need to get every single new Star Wars whatever and it just continues on. There is a point where it'll be like, okay, I'm done. There's certain authors where I'm finished. I'm good. I'm collected. Clive Barker's one. He's done. Tom Clancy. I'm done with him. So there's guys that I kind of move through. I had to start saying, well, what don't I want anymore? And Chris at Showroom Collectibles, come over there in Vancouver, Washington, has been buying a lot of my stuff over the years that I was like, and we're done with this, and we're done with this. Just because it's like, okay, I want to collect this, this, and this. That's it. And then just fit that stuff in here, the rest of the stuff's got to go. You got to make those decisions, You can't collect sports stuff, books, and then have fine whiskey if you're also going to collect, Hot Wheels, the new Star Wars stuff that's coming out, Star Trek models. You can't do it. You cannot do it. Oh, it's great. It's
You're
good.
one of us now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. The Toy Kings episode with no toys.
You
There you go.
a little bit of toys.
A little bit here and
Some
there.
illustrations.
Yes, illustration. So now I are a king. I love it.
You are one of us now. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. So there you go. That was the lost episode of Toy Kings that just never went anywhere. And there were so many things that happened behind the scenes. It's the reason that this video was so bad. And a little bit of what happened was, for the first 45 minutes of us shooting this video, my cousin Jake and Phil, they left. They had to leave. They had some prior obligations that weren't brought to my attention until after we were there, but they had to leave. And I felt really bad for Jason because I told him this whole thing is going to take about 2 hours to do. Hour and a half to 2 hours to finish this project. I think we got there around 7. I didn't leave until past midnight. He was really cool about it, but I felt really bad. And the only reason that was because I was one person trying to do everything. I winged a lot of it, and the audio reasoning was a problem too because Phil had forgotten to bring his extra lavalier mic, so we only had one, and we had a shotgun mic, and the microphone I was using is atrocious. You can hear the background noise of it, so matching that together in editing is nightmarish and it's garbage. But I still think the content was, if you guys read between the lines, you could see what I was trying to go for back then that I'm trying to do now. Like the look, the style, and trying to get inside of Jason's head. You guys watched my documentary update previously, then you know kind of what I'm going for. And this episode of Toy Kings, after just watching it, editing it through it, I'm like, damn, I was onto something. Like, I can see what I was trying to get to, but then I didn't know. If you guys stuck through the video and got to this point, thank you. I really appreciate it. And leave some comments below as to what you guys thought of it, or anything that you guys may think I should add to the documentary, some other sorts of fun ideas that I can do. I would love to read those comments. So thank you for watching. Be sure to like this video and click that bell, because you know you don't want to miss one of my next videos. Trust me, you don't want to miss what I got next. I'm just another Chris, and I'll catch you in the next video, guys. See ya. In all my years of working and shooting videos, I've never forgot a memory card, ever. It's 15 years. I want to hold myself accountable in the future for this. My goals for this year.